Well, hello there, motherfuckers, and welcome to a review of Spider-Man Far From Home. And, hell, now that I actually think about it, it's like one of the weirdest, like, subtitles for a movie. I don't know, even like the previous one, Homecoming and Far From Home, they're almost like similar in a way, and they're not, really what you would expect from like a superhero subtitle. Think about it: Winter Soldier, The Dark World, all these like subtitles throughout the history of Marvel movies. It's different. I'm just saying, not a bad thing, but it kind of sounded a bit different to me. I'll say this: I really enjoyed this film, and I believe I enjoyed it even more than Homecoming. Now, I only saw Homecoming once, but I have fond memories of it. Now, I'm a bit biased. I grew up with the Raimi films, and I guess you could still say grow up, right? I mean, even though I was 14 years old when I saw Spider-Man, back in 2002. So I guess you could kind of qualify that as like still growing up. I wasn't grown up completely yet, but I think most people usually say that, like in terms of like when they're younger. I don't know, but you could just say you grew up with those. They're not as good. I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for Tobey Maguire. Now, I know he didn't play that role perfectly, but needless to say, he was charming, and that's all that matters. But I'm not gonna we'll compare a little bit in this, but I think I did that enough. I think when I did my Homecoming review, I compared a lot to the Raimi films. These are much different films. There's definitely, they stay true to the Raimi style with like a good amount of humor, not taking itself too seriously, but knowing when to do so. Just a warning, guys, before we get into this review, there is going to be a massive amount of spoilers because I really enjoyed this film, and in order to do this review justice, I gotta talk about it in depth. So guys, please stop watching this review right now if you haven't already seen the movie, and then come right back here and watch my review after you see it. Alright guys, let's start it. So let's talk about this film. So it's a sequel. It takes place right after Endgame. It's a nice lead-in. Stark is dead. We start off with "I Will Always Love You," which is a nice little touch, a little tribute to Stark and Captain America and all the heroes that are no longer with us. And so we lead in and we find out that Spider-Man's headed off to Europe on a class trip. And this is something very different. This is like a step in a different direction. Like, this is not even taking place in the United States. It's on a school trip. It's something different. They, they did have a little bit of balls here to go outside the norm. This takes place outside of Manhattan, outside of New York. That's very rare for Spider-Man. And when you kind of think about it, it's kind of unique because they haven't done a Spider-Man film like that before. And they're really filming in Europe, and I don't know if they, sometimes, they film in the United States and they make it look like Europe, but, needless to say, they were there in certain parts of the film. So that gives it a nice touch, it gives it something unique. So when you look back on the film, you could say, hey, this film was shot in Europe. It's something different. This is something that a lot of the other Marvel movies, specifically Spider-Man, can't really say when it comes to those particular films. So right off the bat, that's something different. We see there's a bunch of elemental monsters that are wreaking havoc in Europe, and all of a sudden Mysterio shows up, and you're like, oh wow, I mean, Mysterio's a bad guy. What's he doing, fending off these creatures? Wouldn't it normally be Mysterio with the illusions, making these creatures appear and tormenting Spider-Man and whatever heroes may be present? So we find out that actually Mysterio is working with Nick Fury. He's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and he claims to be from the multiverse, from like Earth, 883 or something like that. So they mentioned the multiverse and like these different dimensions, and that's something, like I said, I have a very mixed opinion on. Every single time they like do something different with one of these heroes, it's always like, oh, but it's an alternate universe. So, but needless to say, it actually turns out that he's not from the multiverse. He's actually from the planet Earth, the one that we live on, and he's just a former disgruntled Stark employee. You know, Tony Stark kind of made fun of his invention, the holographic image devices, the projectors. He codenamed it BARF, like with an acronym, and it like really pissed off Mysterio, whose real name is Quentin Beck. He gets really pissed off, and a bunch of other former Stark employees are now, they have a big plot where they're going to actually make Mysterio look like a hero by fighting off these holographic images. That's a nice little touch. That's something that they haven't done really in any of these films. I mean, it's been done where, you know, someone appears like a hero first. I can't really put my finger on like which film that was, where the villain appears like the hero at first and everyone like loves him, but then, you know, it's just a farce. And we find out that all the destruction that's being caused by these elementals, which are these, you know, which are the creatures that are the holographic images that are destroying Europe, it's actually being destroyed by drones. And they're like cloaked drones, so you can see them. And Quentin Beck just wants to, you know, work his way in, and then Peter Parker, who's really like doubting himself, he doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He's like, you know, he doesn't want to bring Spider-Man on the trip with him. He didn't even want to bring the costume. And Stark gives him these glasses, and Nick Fury hands him these glasses, and they're like these unique glasses that he puts on. And you know, he's able to like just do different things with like satellites and send like missile strikes and everything. And so he feels that Quentin Beck looks like a real hero. He looks like he could be the successor to Iron Man, and he hands over the glasses. The glasses then end up being the instrument of his own destruction. Now Mysterio has all the power, and you know, everything is now a hologram. It's revealed the elementals are not real, and you know, everyone's under the impression that Mysterio was trying to save Europe from these elementals, but that's not the case. And you know, the one of the most impressive things about this film is when Mysterio was tricking Spider-Man with the illusions. It's every bit as great as I thought it was going to be. Because back during the Raimi films, after I saw 3, I was like, you know what would be great? If in the 4th one we get Mysterio. And I think that was the plan originally, if I'm not mistaken. I think 4 was supposed to feature Mysterio. And I was saying, like, with the advances in CGI, how amazing would it be to have Mysterio in there, where his whole entire gimmick as a villain is CGI, you know, holographic imagery. He's a special effects guy, you know. And that was the thing, like, he was run out of the movie business because, like, his holographic images were, like, you know, they were getting too much, and he was, like, too obsessive. He was a nut. So it was a very interesting story that I thought would play out on the big screen. They changed it up a bit. You know, now he's not a special effects guy, but rather, you know, just a scientist who made a holographic generator. But that's just as good. I mean, you know, there's been changes. And like I said, I don't have a problem with changes. I don't have a problem if the directors or screenwriters want to do something a little different, so they rope it in to, you know, Tony Stark. So I was completely fine with that, you know. Because otherwise it would have been like, you know, he's just a random movie producer. I wouldn't have, not a movie producer, but a special effects expert. You know, that would have been really funny. Like an enemy, like, in a movie. That's what I thought would be so cool about it. It's like a special effects guy in a movie. Like, he's a character in the movie, and that's the one that Spider-Man's got to stop. I always thought that would be cool. So they changed it up, but I'm still fine with it. Even though that little bit of charm that they could have had isn't there, I'm still happy with the way how the story went and how it played out. And I really like how Jake Gyllenhaal played this performance. You know, 1 minute he's really nice, and I've been a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal ever since I saw Source Code. I don't think a lot of people probably remember that movie. I think it's a movie that has been forgotten. It's not something that's really referred to as a classic, but it was a really good movie when it came out, where, you know, he had to get to the bottom of the mystery of why this train just kept exploding due to a bomb, and he keeps going back in time and trying to change history. And I thought it was a really unique movie, and you know, Jake's performance really got me into it, and it really got me into Far From Home. And that is so funny because in Homecoming, I said that I thought that Michael Keaton as the Vulture did an even better job. And you know what's funny? That he actually said Mysterio this time, quite a few times. You know, the news starts referring to him as Mysterio. And then, you know, then he starts saying to refer to him as Mysterio after Spider-Man calls him Mysterio to his face. So, you know, I guess it's almost like they kind of listened to the fans, and I think they really did, because there was a few little touches here that I really liked, and it seemed like they really listened. Another complaint was Zendaya. I believe I'm saying her name right? I actually like her as an actress. I thought she was definitely. I did not like her in Homecoming. They like made her like this like SJW character, and no one really liked it. Some people wrote it off as an SJW film, but like I said, I wasn't going to go that far. I enjoyed Homecoming. I would have called the movie out right away as a bust if they went too overboard with that stuff, but they didn't. But there were like certain things that they had Zendaya say that was like off-putting, where I was like not really too charmed by her as a character, and she was too brooding. You know, they made her like too, just like one of those, I don't want to say goth, because she wasn't a goth kid, but just like some weird, like, brooding kid. But this time around, she doesn't really say that type of crap. They don't have her talk about, like, that type of SJW nonsense. You know, they don't try to get all those cutesy lines in there. Instead, actually, she shows more personality. Like, she's awkward, and so is Peter. And I thought that was very charming. And the way how they finally get to the kiss, it was great. I really enjoyed it. And, like, you know, I know this is not the real MJ. This is not Mary Jane. But I thought, you know, like, I don't have a problem with this. I thought it was good. I thought... And let's talk about Tom Holland. I don't know. I think the more I see Tom Holland, I like him more and more. I wasn't... You know, this is the thing. I think he's like, they started him out a little too young. That's the thing why I always like Tobey Maguire. He's the perfect age, you know, a senior in high school. And I'm not sure, but I believe in the original comics, that's kind of the age he was supposed to be. Maybe a junior or a senior, but he's like 16. And that's just, you know, 16, 17 might not seem too different, but like now he's a little older. So I don't know. You know, he looked a little bit more mature in this one because it's a 2-year difference. And so I kind of liked it a little bit better. But I still kind of get that vibe, like they're still a little bit like too young in this, and I don't know why I still don't know why they chose that path. I don't know if it was so they could appeal more to younger audiences, but I don't think it really even matters, because kids see Spider-Man, they're just going to want to see Spider-Man because it's Spider-Man, you know what I mean? And you know, the thing is, like, I thought like they were working a bit more on the charm here. Like Tom Holland just seemed more likable. Not that he wasn't in the first one, but I felt like the jokes were better. They, you know, like I said, they didn't try to be too cutesy and try to, like, you know, put any of those little jabs in there like Hollywood likes to do with the SJW nonsense. They did that in the first one, even though they were in short supply. Like I said, it kind of got to the point where I didn't like Zendaya as a character, excuse me. But she was likable here, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed. That was like one of my, I don't want to say favorite parts of the movie, but it was definitely one of the more enjoyable portions of the film. Of, you know, seeing them two And then, you know, you've got Spider-Man, Peter revealing his secret to her. And, you know, that was one of the things that I never understood. People were saying, oh, way too many people know who Peter Parker is in the Sam Raimi films. And, like, okay, you know, it's like, so now quite a few people know who he is in these films as well. Aunt May knows who he is. You know, MJ knows who he is. You know, his friend Ned knows who he is. I mean, like, so you can't really complain. That's just kind of how it is. You know, I guess it would be a little bit boring if it's, you know, his whole secret, it was just completely secret. I mean, that's even with Batman. There's a few people that are close to him who knows who he is. So, like, those are, like, very minor complaints. With this film, I don't really have, like, any real big complaints with it. The portions where, like, he's wearing the, what they call the night monkey or whatever suit, when he doesn't want to put on the Spider-Man suit, Nick Fury gives him this black suit. I didn't like that suit. Like that suit just looks stupid on him. Like, I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, that's the best that Nick Fury could give him. Like, he doesn't have some other type of armor. Like, that was, like, a very cheap scene. What's also something else? Like, it's actually, I gotta tell you, I really did enjoy this movie. It's kind of hard for me to point out a lot of flaws here. I mean, but I told you, you know, it's more, like, superficial stuff. Like, the cast being a little bit too young and things like that. But other than that, I was pretty satisfied. Let's go back to the performance by Jake Gyllenhaal, though. Let's talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk about, yeah, like, my favorite parts in this, really, is when Spider-Man is getting tricked by the illusions. Like, he's going down a hallway, it's different. Then, you know, he doesn't know where he is and what's in front of him. He turns around, he sees a big statue of Mysterio. That was awesome. That brought me back to the Fox Kids, man, with the Spider-Man animated series. Also, what I really liked was they had, what was one of the other scenes with the illusions? When it looks like Nick Fury comes up from behind him and shoots Mysterio in the back, but that's, once again, that's just an illusion too. And, you know, Mysterio, like, then uses that as an advantage to get the upper hand. Like, just really well put together, and the flow was good, and it seemed like they really took full advantage of Mysterio, and I was very happy with it. Like I said, for someone who wanted to see Mysterio in a Spider-Man movie for so many years, you know, it was a dream come true. I'm a really big fan of that villain. I think that villain is just pretty awesome. He's, I think, maybe one of the more underappreciated Spider-Man villains. I mean, when you compare him maybe to Dr. Octopus or some of the others, you know, Mysterio doesn't really get taught, you know, like Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Venom, Carnage, but Mysterio's got his own pros to him that I really like, and I like the style of the character. I love the design, and they definitely did him justice from a design perspective, even though the suit is in itself a hologram. So I did like that part of, you know, of the movie, that, you know, the designs were spot on and everything like that. So it was a really good film, I have to say. A really good entry into Spider-Man, and I'm really looking forward to the other Spider-Man films that we're going to have. And we see in the end credits as we wait that, hey, J.K. Simmons is still J. Jonah Jameson. And now, what happened at the end of the movie, even though Quentin Beck is dead, he edits together the footage in, like, true, like movie producer fashion, or, well, a movie producer doesn't do that, but like a movie editor, very much akin to, like, being a part of the movie industry, we'll say. And it looks like the part where Spider-Man, you know, wants to shut down all of the drones. He edits it up so it sounds like he actually wants to, like, destroy Europe. I think, you know, he says execute. That was pretty awesome. I really thought that that was a clever touch that they put, so you get like that shocking moment, and this is being played for everyone to see. I thought that that was awesome. You know, on the big video wall, they're standing right near Madison Square Garden. Like, what a beautiful way to end the movie. So just make sure that, like, after the movie's done, you stay for the end credits, because you're not gonna want to miss that scene. Excellent stuff. I really enjoyed that. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the review. It was a really good movie, a really good Marvel movie. I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed this more than Endgame. I thought that it was a really reasonable running time, just 2 hours, and it like flew by. Like I said, the pacing is really good in this movie. There's never any moment really in the film where I feel like, oh, like this is just like gonna be over already. No, didn't feel like that at all. Very impressed. Very well handled movie. Jon Watts, I mean, I think the guy did a really phenomenal job doing this film. It was a really well directed and well produced film. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Click the bell so you get all notifications when I post on my new videos. And guys, I will see you next time.